Hey guys, Paul Phoenix here. We will be starting the stream in about 6 minutes, so get ready everyone. Hey guys, Paul Phoenix here, and today we are streaming live with Kevin Scharf, the marketing director for Elastic Games for, of course, last year. Hi Kevin, how you doing, dude?
Doing good, and it's good to be here.
Okay, so yeah, today we'll talk some last year. Everyone's been getting super excited about it. We've had tons of comments. So yeah, go ahead. Let's talk.
Well, yeah. Hang on one second. Of course, at this exact moment, both of my screens decided to turn off at the same time
Yeah. Oh, no.
for a screensaver moment. Uh, okay, so I'm just going to take that. So I just want everyone in the chat channel to know that there's a slight delay because we're obviously talking over Skype. Paul's based out of the UK. I'm based out of Montreal, Canada, where Elastic Games, the company making last year, is based out of. So what that means is I think there's like a good 2 minute delay between us talking and getting to the YouTube channel. So we will try to answer questions in the live chat box from you guys, but it might be a little bit delayed. I will not be responding exactly when you guys are saying stuff. It's gonna be weird. Oh, my sound levels are bad. Hang on a second.
Is it? And welcome newcomers. I can see quite a few here. Thank you for the subs.
Can everyone hear me right? Yeah,
I think
someone's screwing with me right now. I can tell. It's hilarious.
none.
All right, well, let's get moving forward then. So I'm
Cool.
sure you guys have lots of questions about the game. I know Paul does as well. So let's get started. I guess the best thing I can do right now, Paul, is I'll just give a quick description of what last year the game is,
Yeah, that's cool. Go for it.
and then you got a load of questions I know that you've been wanting to ask me for quite a while, and
Oh
then
yeah.
I'll start doing that. So right off the bat, last year is a asymmetrical horror game that is based off of 90s horror, and it's basically built around the idea of five survivors who are based around teenagers in the high school trying to escape a map specifically. And from there, the killer is trying to get all of them to get a home run, is what we like to call it, and wipe them all out.
Well, the first question I've got. Yes, we can. Yeah. The first question I've got is from. I mean, we've had so many comments about last year. So I'll just go straight off the bat. The first one was the release date. So when can we expect it? Is it still an August release date or is it changed?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're going to explain that. So right now, what we have is a mid-August PC beta coming up. That beta is going to be for backers who have reached that tier. It's also going to be for people who take part in our last chance backing round, which is coming up. And it's going to be for a specific limited period of time. And that's to help us do a few things. One is to help us find any major bugs before launch. Two is a chance for us to get feedback from the community as well as from all of our backers from the Kickstarter, which is important. And then, of course, it's also a chance for us to play directly with more people. Right now, we have a lot of different people in Montreal that we know that we play with doing QA, obviously friends of the company and things like that.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to kind of getting it out on as many rigs as possible just to kind of QA it a little bit more effectively and stress test it. The big thing is that when people say like, when are you going to launch? That's going to really be dependent on how that beta goes, you know? So if there was some sort of massive issue revealed, a big bug, or we really had to change the balance of the game in big major ways, then obviously we would take the time to do that because we want to make sure we get the best game out possible to people. But that said, I would suspect that it's going to be out, within a reasonable amount of time after August.
Yeah.
For PC.
Well, it looks. I mean, from the Predator trailer, uh, the gameplay looks really tight. I mean, even to little things like the right at the start when it does the. I hate to use the reference, but like the old GoldenEye camera when it sort of but it pans around him and then the camera goes through into his head, and it all looks very solid. It doesn't to be honest, it doesn't look like an indie game or anything like. It looks very much like a AAA. Okay, well, the next question, which I know, I think this has been asked even more, is what platforms or platform is last year going to be released on?
Sure. So we had a very successful Kickstarter. So that has allowed us to fully fund ourselves and get us to the point of doing our PC version. So right now we can say 100% that we're going to be on Steam and we're going to be on PC. We are looking into getting on the console. We're getting flooded with requests to get onto PS4 and Xbox One, and like 3 really strange requests from Switch owners. Like now, like I actually got 3 emails like 2 weeks ago, where guys were like, "Can you get on Switch? Can you make this a Switch game?" And I'm like, I don't know about that. I'll ask the devs." But
Yeah,
I'm trying to imagine it being sold on a small cartridge for Switch. It'd be pretty amazing. But
it would. Yeah. But
right now, it's going to be for PC.
yeah,
Depending on how successful the game does on PC, we would probably make the jump to console shortly after that.
yeah,
Um, we are actively looking for ways to make that happen, but we are an incredibly small indie studio, and the number one focus for us is to make sure that our backers uh, are doing their thing. Now, I noticed there's a guy named Steve13. He's asking, are you going to play the game or just talk? So, I get this comment a lot, and it's totally fine, Steve. I understand the sentiment. At the moment, like I said, we're very big on quality. What we showed of the Predator Mode trailer is that's how Predator Mode is going to work 100% in the game. So, although, yes, we do want to play the game for you guys, we want to show you guys more gameplay and more in-game stuff. That's coming up. But right now, we're not going to show anything unless we're sure it's 100% good and 100% of what's going to be in the game. As Faust just said. Thank you, Faust. So it's really important that people kind of understand that. We're not going to create some bullshit marketing fucktard, shots and throw them up and Photoshop the crap out of them.
yeah.
What you see is exactly what you get in our game, 100%, and that's what we're aiming for.
Fantastic, yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I do swear a little bit, just to give people a heads up. It makes me a little bit unorthodox, but we'll go from there. There was a prior question from Andre Robinson.
Yes, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Event DLC, like special killers on Halloween, Christmas, and etc. I can't get too much into that this time. I can't really talk too much about kind of like season content or post-launch content, as it's called in the industry by industry terms. But we would absolutely 150% love to do those kind of like really fun themed events for the whole community for free.
Yeah.
So like, I think Verdun, which is a fantastic indie game, I highly recommend it to anyone, does this really great Christmas map. It's based on World War One, and they have this map in rotation during Christmas where no one can kill each other from World War One. They just throw snowballs at each other. And it kind of shows the Christmas truce that happened. And if we could do things like themed Halloween stuff or things themed around like, St. Patrick's Day or Chinese New Year or, Christmas and stuff, you bet your butt we'll do that, because there's so much fun to do in kind of a horror theme with those kind of dates.
Yeah. Well, I just going to say, personally, seeing the Strangler turning up wearing like some dirty, manky Santa Claus outfit would be absolutely nightmarish. So it'd be fucking scary as hell. So yeah, I'd love that.
I think the real question for us would be, who would be Santa Claus? Would it be the giant or the slasher? I don't know which one. One's kind of big but not jolly, and the other one's a little bit more jolly, but definitely not the person you want to meet.
Oh, if it was a giant, it would be like that Goldberg movie.
Yeah. I do want to I'll get back down to kind of breaking down the games.
Yes.
So, okay. With last year, on the Survivor side, there are 5 survivors. Specifically. So we have Samantha, Nick, Amber, Chad, and Troy. And these characters basically all are kind of a different archetype from your typical horror movies from around the 80s to the 90s to like Cabin in the Woods era. And then for the killers, we have 3 killers, which is the Slasher, the Giant, and the Strangler. Thank you, Mr. Graves. You were completely right. And his comments either is lagged or it's coming up or something, but he just called them out properly.
Yeah.
The killer side, you're unique. The Slasher's kind of a jack of all trades. He uses an axe. He's got a pretty good amount of health. He can really track you down fast. He can catch up to someone running. He's got a few unique things to him that we haven't shown yet. The Giant is literally this, and he's just this 500-pound behemoth that, you know, when a team of survivors go, we'll stick together and we can survive this. No, when you see the Giant, we're not going to survive this. We need to run. We need to split up.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do as good tracking down like an individual, but when he gets a group of people together, oh my God, you're screwed. And one of the questions I love is people go, what's his weapon? I'm like, his hands. You know, he just picks people up, he throws them, he tears people, he punches down doors. He's huge. The Strangler is kind of one of our really fun characters, and he uses a chain and kind of pulls people into him, and he strangles people, and he's very much an isolation tactic archetype, and he's really about being methodical. Cut that one person off from the group. Take care of them. Move on to the next. Move on to the next. Move on to the next.
Yeah.
Yes, God of Sarcasm. If the Slasher looks like the janitor at your school, that's a concern. I'd be concerned. You should look into that. That could be concerning. He might have problem because he has bad hair hygiene, most likely. And, you know, that's kind of where we're going with it. And the last chance backing round, by the way, it hasn't happened yet. We will be doing it before the beta. We are still working on some kinks. Full disclosure right now, we're just trying to decide what's the best platform for doing that. Whether we want to do it through something like BackerKit, whether we want to set something up ourselves, or if there's going to be something else. But we are getting our last chance backing rounds set up. There's just a few more things to iron out there, and I appreciate everyone being patient about that. But once again, we don't want to start something like that until we're 100% sure that it's got all the bases covered and that it protects everyone and that we're offering great stuff to people so that they're excited.
Yeah. That's cool. All right.
And I'll answer another question then, Paul. I'm going to let you get going. Back to me here. Mad Eye Yoki, what were some of the specific movies that inspired your design and look for the game? Will survivors know what killer they're facing before the match starts? So at the moment, for balance reasons, yes, you should know what you're facing, killer-wise sometimes, but I believe you can change it up. So I have to see. So that's something we're playing around with. We're not sure if we want people to know who they're facing versus it being kind of a surprise, which I think is always fun. The movies that inspired us, of course, are things like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, of course, Cabin in the Woods, some of the classic franchises, Freddy and Friday the 13th and Halloween, and not Hellraiser. I think that's a little too far. But, there's some great games like that. And then, of course, also the classic horror movie tropes of, like, werewolves and mass killers and kind of this stuff, and it's really based around this concept of Americana, Spielberg-esque 90s meets horror, and that's kind of what's really our drive and where we kind of come up with that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So from there, go ahead, Paul. I do rant a little bit too much, so don't be afraid.
No, go for it. I do have a question, but yeah, I want to say that's my appeal for this game. I'm 31 years old. I was born in 85. Way before Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream was the first thing I was introduced to by my oldest brother. And that was what got me into horror. So yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this because it's just for me it's where it started. The other question was regarding maps. I believe I went over this in the last video, but obviously with you here now, Kev, we want to sort of go over about with the maps being static. Sort of what was the thinking behind that? Why you wanted to, what was the benefits of it for the game?
Yeah, like that was something like I've gotten some questions before. Some people have asked us why we're not going procedural as an example, and I think it comes down to mechanics. Like as an example, Dead by Daylight has done procedural maps where the maps are kind of the same elements in the map, but they're moving around all the time. And that works really well for them because they have this fantastic gameplay that's really cat and mouse, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the whole game is built around that for Dead by Daylight, and it was very effective. For us, we're really about those tropes and those movie things, but also our survivors can fight back and kill the killer. So what's really important for us is that these things are kind of switched up a bit, and the maps are as much of a character as the characters that we have in the game. We want you to know that map and go, oh my god, I know this map. Oh my god, once we get to this point, that's going to be a nightmare. Or when you turn down that hallway and you had that past experience where the killer dropped from the ceiling, or he burst out of the wall, or he had like blanketed the floor in traps, or he had done something really creepy to you, that you were able to like remember that experience and be like, okay, this time I'm cutting through the science room. This is how I'm getting out of here, you know? And that's kind of one of those things that we want, and we're very excited about it so far. It's working out really well. Excuse me there. And we're pretty excited about that. And every time we've done balancing and testing, we're amazed at how well static maps translate to this kind of game. I am going to answer two questions I'm seeing here. One is someone's asked, just let me go back up here a little bit. When will we be on console? Which is a question we're always getting. When will this be coming to console, Josh Gaming? Like I said earlier, I'm assuming you just came in. We'd love to come to console. Our primary focus is to get onto PC, which is what our backers from our Kickstarter supported. If there's a way for us to get on console, we'll do it in a heartbeat, but we are a very small indie team in Montreal of AAA guys. So we all have experience at AAA studios, such as Eidos and Ubisoft and Square Enix and some of the other smaller guys, some of the other smaller companies in town. And our entire experience is built off of working on big games. We're trying to do that with a small team. It's working really good. At the same time, rest assured that if this game is successful on PC, we're going to make that jump to console right away. We're all big fans of Xbox and PS4, and we all have experience working on PS4 and Xbox games as well. And God of Sarcasm, you should add a Hulk outfit. Yeah, I don't know. Disney's expensive. This is Marvel. Not sure that's going to happen. But it'd be cool. Maybe we could make him purple and claim that he's a radiated giant. I don't know. I'll have to bring that to the devs. All right, and yeah, Paul, I think earlier when we were talking just about setting up the stream, you'd had a question for me about just not just the environments, but like how big the environments are, the maps and stuff, right?
Oh yes, yeah, of course. I mean, are we talking? Like, is it going to take like half an hour to go across the map, or is it going to be small? I mean, what kind of kind of size are we looking at?
Yeah, so our maps are basically built into the idea that they're for matches, right? They're for online matches.
Yeah.
So we're kind of playing for very short, kind of condensed periods of time. And although we do have maps that are large, like that cover a large area, it's going to be reasonable. So this is not like open world or Skyrim or something like that, just to be clear. I've had people say things like, oh yeah, like the whole town. I'm like, I don't think it's that much fun to play online for 2 hours a multiplayer game in a condensed town, and that would be very ambitious for a team our size. So right now our maps are built around the idea of short kind of arena-based stuff. And it's all about trying to win the matches as survivors. Sometimes that means escaping the map, getting from one point to another. Sometimes that'll change. Sometimes it means that you're doing a series of objectives to open up other things. Sometimes it means that you can kill the killer, and then that's one way that you can actually win, which is good. And we're just trying to kind of make those things a little bit different, and they're specific to each map, so that there's a bit more flavor. That's not always the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've seen a very interesting question from Andrew Flamand, who says, "Can we call the police in the game?"
Yes. So that's something that we've been talking about. That was in our original Kickstarter, so we're still working on the balance with that.
Yeah.
That's something where, honestly, when it comes to how it would work, we still need to be 100% confident in its balance.
Yeah.
One thing you have to keep in mind is when you do a Kickstarter, before you've gone to a prototype level in game development, you have put forward things on paper. It's just like, it's actually the same when you on a development team when you're pitching to producers or higher ups in a company. You're saying, this is what we envision, this is what's going to work, these are our mechanics, let's move forward. Sometimes those things change for balance reasons. Sometimes those things change for budget reasons or time reasons. That's one of the reasons why you can see things completely being different from the game, from announcement to launch, or even pre-announcement. In this specific case, at the moment, we have tested out the idea that the players can play as the cops, like they call the cops and the cops show up, or if someone dies. But we have noticed that there's some balance issues there. I think it's interesting because that was something that Summer Slasher Camp and Friday 13th, which became Friday 13th, had talked about as well. We kind of found the same kind of balancing issues there.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find ways around that. And that was something where, I think, for asymmetrical games, that's always kind of a head scratcher. Like, how do you handle something like that? And that's something that we want to make sure, because no one has fun being the first person dying and just sitting there for the next 15 minutes watching the game. No. So, you got to have something a little bit more engaging past that point. And we have some solutions there. We're going to have to cover that in the future. Can't get too much into it right now.
Yeah.
But that is something there.
Well, I was going to say, it kind of, forget about sort of other games. Looking at movies, just looking at Scream is a really good example. I know it's a movie, a game, different things. Trying to adapt the movie to to a game. But what I was thinking was, obviously, if I know Dewey was kind of the police that turned up, but obviously if the actual police had turned up, Scream would have had a terrible ending. I think the excitement about the ending was the fact that it felt isolated and it felt like no one was coming to help. These people had to get some balls and sort of do it themselves. So I kind of think that's what I kind of look at when I look at your characters. I kind of get that feel from them that they're gonna, sort of grab it by the horns and do it themselves. And I kind of find that more tantalising than, the calling the police thing. It's sort of, in a way, it feels like, I know it's a bad pun, but it kind of feels like a bit of a cop out. It feels, it kind of feels too sort of easy, in a way. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. What do you agree with that, or?
Well, I think it just comes down to balance. Like, it really comes down to stuff. Like, one of the things we discussed was, does every map need that mechanic if we're doing that mechanic? And that's something that's not necessarily needed every single time. But also, more importantly, like, the key takeaway from this is that we're going to work at making the best balance to make the most fun, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that people have to keep in mind. So if for whatever reasons we said, police aren't working, you're going to hear from us right off the bat. We're going to show you down the road why we reached that conclusion. We're not just going to tell you something's not there. It's not there, we changed our mind. No, we're going to walk you through the process and explain that. I do want to get back. I was noticed there was a question from Logan Gordy.
Yeah.
About how big the maps are. And Mr. Graves, thank you for the valiant efforts to answer questions. I appreciate that. But Logan Gordy, I do want to kind of point out, so the way that our maps work at the moment is that we have 3 maps that are themed around the high school. And those 3 maps, and we're working on them, there might be more maps, but those maps kind of cover different areas of the school. I can't get too much into that because we're going to be talking much, much more about it. But I will talk about one specific map, which people have kind of seen a hint of, which was in our Predator Mode trailer, which we like to call the big game. And it is still being kind of changing around. There's still some things being moved around because our level designers are always tinkering. But the big game is essentially the inside of the school. And it's got all those kind of hallways, that really slick floors. There's a sub-level to it. It's got this really great kind of high-value concepts that feels like it's a Hollywood movie's take on a high school. Because honestly, how many high schools have golden lions in the halls?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
There, and there's some story reasons for that too, and some more reasons we look forward to you guys finding out about. But these maps are meant to be played with 5 people versus 1 person. They have to be big enough that Predator Mode is not just zipping around the map in less than a minute. But at the same time, they do have to be small enough that it's not like people just disappear into the ether. So the size is balanced really well. Don't worry too much about the size. If I was to describe it, I'd say it's probably it's Yeah, I'd say like, you know, you wouldn't be going past our biggest map wouldn't go past a battlefield map size, I'd say.
Okay, cool.
Which that one's on paper. That one's kind of like we have it gray boxed and still needs to be kind of balanced out. So that could still get cut down. But yeah, I think that should cover that. As for cops and things like that, and do people show up and things like that, you don't have to worry too much about that. Like I said, it's really comes down to balance, and there are times in movies where the cops showing up is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Because they get murdered as well, or they save the day. But other times, you know, like I think for us, the most important thing is that it's balanced. That's not something that's like overpowered. Like the cop shows up and he's in body armor and he's got an automatic machine gun, and like whoever's playing the killer is like, well, it's done, it's over, flip the table, I'm rage quitting. It really comes down to just adding more horror to the game if that happens.
Yeah.
But once again, that's still something that's a feature that we're still balancing out, and it could get thrown out. Now, I don't know if some of you can see it, but there's been an image of a bug spray can showing up in the background over and over again. That was something I shared with Paul today. That's going to be going live on our Facebook page a little bit later today or tomorrow morning. And what that is that's actually what we call our smoke grenade. So that's another example of something that we've designed and made. But it still needs to be balanced, and there is always the possibility that it could get pulled. Things like that can get pulled from balancing, because you might find through QA and those processes that it's not working.
Yeah.
Just need to stress that things are always subject to change, especially in the game industry. But the way that the smoke grenade works is really fun. So the survivors use smoke grenades, and they pull it just like a normal grenade, and when they throw it, it creates a cloud of smoke that's kind of above. So if you're standing, your vision is blocked, but if you crouch, you can kind of crouch underneath the kind of semi-poisonous, disgusting cloud of bug spray. It's meant as kind of something for a survivor to use as a last-minute get the hell out of the room kind of thing. And it's very useful against, say, someone like the Giant, where if he crouched, he's still at eye level with the smoke. Not so good against someone like the Strangler, who might just kind of giggle because he's already a pretty agile character. So it's something that can work in certain circumstances, but it also might backfire. Someone earlier had said, I think it was, I'm trying to find that person. Give me a second. And what is? Oh my God, there's so many comments. Oh, here it is. Robinson, Andre Robinson. She had asked if you can kill survivors, like friendly fire kind of scenarios. There are friendly fire scenarios that can happen at the moment. That's something we're a little concerned about because griefing is always an issue in online games.
Yes. I've been a victim of that myself when on the Friday 13th beta, so yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be fixed.
But at the same time, I think there's a certain amount of fun to be had in when you throw a Molotov cocktail as an example, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna get the killer.
Yeah.
Perfect example is I was in a match, private match, which we were testing, where two of us ran into the room to try to kill the Giant with baseball bats. So we started beating him down. We're like, we got him, can't go into predator mode, we got this. The third person behind us hadn't really heard us have this plan, so they threw a Molotov cocktail into the room and then boarded the room up on us. So we're like in this room on fire, in a sea of fire, with a flaming Giant while we're on fire, and then we both died very fast.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Giant just broke the barricade to the door down. So the guy outside was like, oh, I'm safe, looks, and there's this gigantic Giant who's on fire. And he's like, I have now made him on fire. This is not better. And he had to book it, which was really fun. And I made sure I did not save that person the next round when I had an opportunity. I said, no, you can stay. You can die.
Fuck you, man. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm getting out of here. But those kind of dynamic moments are really about what we're doing.
Yeah. Well,
Faust, I'm sorry. We do. One of the perks of working in the game industry is you do get to play the game before it comes out. One of the not so great perks is that you have to spend many hours playing the game when it's not in a playable state to find out how to make it playable.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone in this industry likes to call those things kind of the hell march. You know, you're got bags in your eyes, you're pulling super long hours, you're trying to get it to the finish line. Yeah. It's always a artistic endeavor. But from there, yeah, we're pretty excited about that. And getting back to the gas, the smoke grenade, the smoke grenade is basically one of several tools that the survivors can use. So things like baseball bats and the tracker, the motion tracker, which allows you to kind of get a hint where he's gone predator mode.
Yeah.
If he's hiding in something, it'll give you like an outline if the killer is kind of in a spot hiding, so you can kind of get a ping, kind of like Aliens. But it has a limited range, obviously, and it's balanced pretty fun. And then on top of it, uh, it has to be pointed towards where the killer is or has gone. So sometimes you miss, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So Paul, any other questions?
Yes.
I'm going on for too long here.
We do. Okay. I have a few straight off the top of my head. The first one is it's kind of, I want to try and split the question up. Basically, it's about sort of, it's like okay, well, an example would be Dead by Daylight with people saying, because there's a lot of questions I've seen about people saying, do you have to have the music on? You know, it kind of ruins it when, you know, so I'm trying to sort of listen for footsteps, you know, that kind of thing, but all I can hear is this music blaring in my ear, and it kind of ruins the experience. I was just wondering if you guys are going to have, if the score is going to be quite prominent, or if it's going to be a case of where you have to actually sort of really sort of listen to, you know, be able to hear someone. Maybe you could hear someone walking down the corridor, and you'll sort of, and you can obviously hear it, like if you've got your headphones on, you'll be able to hear it coming from the right of you, and you'll be able to know to hide or something like that. Is that something you guys are looking at doing?
So doing something where like there's no kind of sound loops. You're saying like music loops. So there's no like chase music or anything like that.
Yeah, it feels
That's
really.
interesting.
It becomes very dynamic, you know, and it's very much a case of. So obviously, if say, you know, I'm Amber walking down the corridor, I'm scared shitless, and the giant is walking down another corridor, and I can hear him coming. Maybe I could even hear him breathing, and obviously it'll be a case of then I can go, all right, cool, you know, I can obviously rather than walking into him, I know obviously to hide now, or is it a case of literally just running straight into him and then having to just run off in the other direction?
I feel like the stream has become let's develop the game between each other.
That's actually.
But no,
Sorry,
it's
that was I was trying to ask you a question, but it was also trying to, yeah.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm totally. I'm actually gonna probably bring that up with our devs later today. Normally, the way it works is you have sound cues and music cues
Yeah.
in the background and sound loops. And we can't get too much into that at the moment. There's some stuff that we are working on right now. We're working with some really great audio guys in town who've done some really top tier games, and they're really helping us make some great stuff there.
Yeah.
But in that specific case, I would imagine that we could probably get something that's like a volume controller in there.
Yeah.
But I can't promise anything. I don't know what the scope of that would be. I'm
Okay.
sure I'm going to turn to our dev guy and be like, "Can we do that?" He's going to be like, "That's like $200 million." Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just gonna laugh. But it's an interesting thing. Like I think one of the things when we're talking about sound and sound design
Yeah.
in games and horror movies is you want to make sure that you still have that great atmospheric sense, like you can hear footsteps and breathing and screams and things like that. But at the same time, you do want to have that kind of that Hollywood feel.
Yeah.
You want to hear, you know, like all of us remember the first time you see Scream, or sorry, Psycho, the you know, and or like the Jason music, which is iconic now at this point.
Yeah.
And you know, those kind of tracks, hearing those tracks, is really really important to a visual and audio entertainment medium. So we do have some really cool sound loops and things that we played. You actually kind of got a hint of it in the Predator mode trailer. So that music, when he turns into Predator mode, actually what I was playing, because I was playing that when we captured the footage, but when the slasher turns into the Predator mode and goes flying, that's an example of music, or very close to the example of what we want the music to be like when you're flying around the map and doing stuff.
Okay.
It might be a bit more muted and stuff, but that would give you a pretty good example of where we're going kind of audio wise.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about all that stuff, and that's going to be really good. I think one of the questions we get a lot of is things like, and Mad Eye Yoki I think just asked this, is can the killer recover lost health or regenerate? There is some slow regeneration, depending. It's tied into other things, but the key thing to understand is that for us, it's important that the killer has a risk reward mechanic and system. So you need to be afraid as the killer in some ways to make you more strategic. If you just run in and start killing everything and have no fear of death, so to speak, it does change the game. So you do need to know, like, okay, there's a failure, there is a risk here if I don't plan out my attack properly or my ambush properly, and that's something that we're trying to build into the game, that we're very excited about. And there's a few different things that we're going, and we're going to get more into that as we start doing more game footage and stuff for everyone in the future. And game footage is coming, like the hate mail that I've received, but you know, it is on the way. But we just want to make sure that the killer is always thinking about his environment and, like, okay, I'm the slasher, I can take 2 of them on, but where's that third person? I better go scout that third person out. And if I drop a trap here, that third person can't get here in time. I can probably get one of these people. Oh wait, hang on, if I hit these lights out, they can't see me. Oh yes, now we're up the ante. And that's kind of where we want people's heads to be at in the game. And then for survivors, you always want them to be kind of risk reward as well. You want them to be like, okay, we have to get this stuff to get out of this map. But does that mean we split the party? Doesn't mean we move as a group? And then, you know, anyone who's played a multiplayer game, it's always that one guy who runs off without you, the Leroy Jenkins, right? Yeah. Leroy Jenkins. There's always that one guy. And for the survivors, every time someone splits in the group or starts doing their own thing, you're going to feel it. You're going to be like, where did Amber go? Amber? Yeah. And you're going to plan. And even if you're with your friends and you guys have a plan, you're all on Skype together and talking, you'd be amazed at how many times groups split naturally just because of the way the levels are. We're really, really excited about that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Okay, well, next questions. I have to ask this one. I know,
Sure.
I don't know if it's a big part of it, but obviously for me, a massive thing I liked about 90s horror movies was that every single one of them had the most kick-ass soundtrack. And I was wondering, is there going to be, are you going to try and get any bands that were from the 90s to sort of lend you their songs, or are you going to get anyone to make sort of those 90s styles, you know,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
You know, once again, we're a very small indie team, so getting those kind of licensing rights and things like that would be very difficult.
Yeah.
And also because of the fact that we're doing our own IP, it can be a little bit hard to convince people sometimes to give up rights or to share rights or do it at a lower rate.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, anything from like Scream, I'd throw it in a heartbeat, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look at the party at the end, like every song that they're playing in the background, it's fantastic, yeah.
But I think one of the key things to understand is that where some games, you know, like one of the key things to understand is that although that can be very effective at immersion, for us, the sound is coming more from how we feel about soundtracks versus kind of in environment sound. So there will be like music and sounds happening in the environment. Like for sure in the mall, there'll be some like mall music in the background. You'll hear it. And
kind of Dead Rising style.
Yeah. Something along those lines. But when it comes to like our sound design is very influenced, as you heard, by those classic sounds of horror, by electric guitar, by percussion beats, by kind of those Chinese violins and Chinese harps and things like that being done through electric synthesizers and things like that. So we really want to make sure that you're hearing those kind of things that are recognizable, but we're putting a new spin on it. We're putting the last year spin on this stuff to give it a bit more of a punch to it, which is really what we're aiming for. I don't know. Hang on a second. I read this comment that just only says, I like the breathing idea, Faust, so I gotta see what this comment is about it. Well, we have heartbeats.
That's too Dead by Daylight, though. That's too much like that. Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting thing. So we do have, there are some stealth mechanics in our game, but I think the key thing to understand about those heartbeats is that in Dead by Daylight, heartbeats are used so that you can get rid of camping. Yeah. So that someone doesn't camp in the corner and then ruin the match, because then the killer is like, where the hell are you? You're just hiding in the corner. We definitely will have mechanics that reveal people who are trying to just sit out the match and make things a little bit more fun. Yeah. But I don't think we're going to do a direct heartbeat. I think that's something that Dead by Daylight did very, very well. we'd have to look at some other stuff, but I don't think we're gonna do like a copy paste of that for sure.
Well, it's a very it's a very dark thing, isn't it? Human psyche. It just the heartbeat obviously adds a lot of suspense to, just the situation. So yeah, I could see.
Yeah, like I think for us, like as you can see, like there will be some when you hear the survivor loops, everyone's going to be pretty excited in the sounds. But I think the key thing that people are need to take away from it is that
Yeah,
last year is last year. When we do stuff, it's going to be um, it's really going to be about how we feel about it. And no,
yeah,
Faust, you don't need to be sorry, man. It's not. It's fine, and I understand that you're referencing clock tower games and things like that. But my point is that our solutions for those things could be different than pure audio. It's an interesting idea, but it's just one of those things. Like once again, like we're gonna find the best way to balance that out, and rest assured that we will have a mechanic that makes sure that someone can't just camp in the corner and tap out, and just wait for the whole match to end. Because
yeah,
there's nothing fun about that. Um, Although in our game, currently, and I'm gonna have to check the balance. In our game, if you don't escape the map or if you don't complete the objectives, you actually lose because the assumption is that you didn't escape in time, so now the killer can find you. So um, you can't really win by tap out, by timing it out. You can't run the clock. You really do have to get out,
yeah,
and that's I think that's probably one of the bigger differences we have than some of the other guys. But we also have combat and fight and everything. Um, Logan Gordy is saying, is it a one-hit kill for each killer against a survivor? No, it's not. Some of them take longer to kill people than others. It also depends on if the survivors, what they're equipped with, how their health is. Like we have a med kit as an example in game, so you can actually heal up other survivors, but it has like limited charges. So those kind of things can be used to do that. Are there going to be NPCs? Kenny's asking. No, we don't have any NPCs in the map at the moment.
oh.
That's expensive. Maybe down the road. Maybe post-launch content if we're doing really good. Anyways, I'm going to get back to some of your questions there, Paul. Sorry, I get distracted with the chat box sometimes.
That did.
ADD at its worst.
What I was gonna say to everyone, make sure don't be shy. If you got a good question, throw it up there and get it answered.
Actually, someone asked me on our Facebook page. He wanted a little bit more information on the maps, and so I just want to clarify because I know we said it at the earlier part of the stream, but so our maps have they're pretty like I said as an example, the big game is something that you saw a little bit of, and we've had some hints of it with the gym and stuff like that. A map like that has kind of like the flat surface, but we have areas of it that are kind of below, and we have a lot of interactions inside rooms. So when we do kind of level designs with static maps, our purpose is to kind of keep people moving, searching, and playing. It's about creating these scenarios where sometimes players are going to be like, okay, we're in the science room, board the door up, board the back door up. I think we're okay. And then the killer's like, they're in the science room.
Yeah.
To the vent. And then, and then those players who might not have known or ever seen the vent that one time that they played it are like, wait a minute, oh no. And now they're boarded up in a room with someone and there's a panic. Versus say other players who are like running through the halls and never run in the halls. No running in the halls. That's bad.
No running in the hallway. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you have your hall pass. But if you're running in the halls as an example, you might be like, okay, we can run from here to here to here to here. And then you run around the corner and the lights go out, and then you hit a light trap, and then suddenly people are panicking, and then things are on fire. People are throwing bombs by mistake, and all sorts of stuff like that. And that's really what we're playing around. The panic moments and the ambush moments and the chaos moments are really some of the most fun. One of the worst things that happened to me though was a slow. I couldn't get out of a leg trap, and the person who was playing the killer on our team, who was Nicholas, who's one of our programmers, literally just slow motion walked to me.
Yeah.
Such a jerk. So it was like one of those slow motion horror moments where I'm like, there's nothing I can do to get out of this. And I'm yelling for my team to help me. And then James Waring, the creative director and owner of Elastic Games, yelled out at me from his workstation and goes, "You didn't pay for lunch last week." And I was like, motherfucker. He left me to die. But, those kind of things is what we're doing, where we're really excited and everything like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's a question from Robinson, which is quite interesting. Are there going to be environmental kills?
We're looking into it.
Okay. Cool.
That's kind of where I can go. There's some things that are based on environmental locations.
Yeah.
Environmental kills, like specific things, we're looking into it. It's not something that we can 100% confirm, because it comes down to balancing.
Yeah.
And sometimes environmental kills can create kind of long kill animations.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a question of what happens if you're interrupted during a kill animation. Like, there's nothing worse than a kill animation going and someone comes running in and tries to hit the killer in the back to disrupt the attack, but he can't because it's like a locked-in animation, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we have some stuff that we like to call finishing kills.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of balancing them out a little bit more. And we don't have anything that's kind of like, to my knowledge, we don't have anything that's like location activated. But that said, I'm a huge fan of the Punisher video game that was on PS2, and having stuff that's like in locations would always be fun. So I can imagine us bringing something like that into the future. But there'll be some really cool finishing moves for the killers to have and stuff.
Awesome. Well, I mean, environmental kills. The everything. Come.
But 1 second. There is one thing that happened here, and yes, Nathaniel Jordan, yes, the bear. Okay, so we had a team meeting about the bear. So on another stream, we had a big conversation about the bear. Somebody had proposed a bear kill. I don't know where this came from. We talked about gigantic stuffed bear. I am advocating that we have that bear kill in this game.
Oh, yeah.
I will not budge my position. I think people in the office are tired of me talking about the bear, but we will make this happen. This bear must happen. I will be very upset. Minimum, we'll have a bear skin for one character, because I swear to God, if we don't have a bear in this game, I'm going to be a very, very sad. Crying. But yes, we have not forgotten about the bear. Okay.
Could you imagine a giant just throwing it on top of someone or something? Yeah, something just horrible. Yeah, just. But environmental kills don't always make. They don't make the game. It's like it can be good. It can be good, but I mean, Dead by Daylight kind of proved that all they did is put someone up on a hook, but they proved that it could still be a really fun game. So yeah, next.
Well, yeah, like I think that's an interesting point you just raised. Like, simplicity in design is always a great thing, and I think that for them, the strength was, of course, about those kind of like that cat and mouse chase mechanic, and the maze always being different, and knowing how you can look at something and say, I know that's a palette, and I know how a palette works every single time. It's always fun in that. For us, I think it's more that we want people to know the maps like characters. So you get excited, and that there's a conversation, so people can be like, oh man, we're going to the big game. Remember, the middle of the gym, that's a danger zone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but like, hey, where's that fuse box again? How do we keep the lights on in the basement? Yeah, we need to put something here. So we want to make sure that people are talking like that about our maps and interacting with them as if they're characters in their own right, and that's really important for us.
Yeah. Well, it's cool to be able to say, "Oh, I'll meet you at the tool shed and stuff like that," and actually know where the tool shed is rather than it being random. Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that we really looking forward to. Also, for people who are new to it, it's always an exploration, so you're going to be discovering new stuff each time, and it'll be the same way since the last time, so it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. To answer Pinkman Panda, is there a story mode or plans for a story mode? We have lore in game. We're incorporating it into game. There will be ways that people can interact with it, which is fun. Sometimes distracting, though. I can't get too much into that. But we don't have a story mode. If we had plans for story mode, it would have to happen post-launch. That's something that's very difficult and tricky to implement into a game like an asymmetrical game, and it's very expensive. It can blow your budget up almost equal to what the multiplayer portion is. A good rule of thumb in most games is that your single player should cost equal or 50% of what your multiplayer is. So whatever your your pillars, your first thing. So if you're like a multiplayer game or if you're a single player game, your multiplayer portion should cost either equal to, if it has a lot of new stuff, or 50% of what the other thing cost. And for us, we're putting every nickel directly into the development funds to make sure that we're getting the best game possible.
Yeah. Okay. Another question was about the Unreal Engine 4. Absolutely fantastic engine, but
Love the guys at Epic.
it can be quite heavy on a lot of sort of mid-level computers. Have you tried to compensate for that for people that don't have GTX 1080s? Like, have you tried to compensate for that by optimizing? Okay.
Yeah. So for starters, we have a computer we nicknamed in the office Old Deathy.
Yeah.
Old Deathy is a pretty old computer. I think it's running off a GTX 9 something. I'd have to take a look at it. But we are making sure that the game will run decently at low to mid graphics.
Okay.
Cool. It might not be as pretty per se, but it should run pretty smooth, and that's important to us. A big thing that you do have to keep in mind, though, is that although this game, like, what's really amazing to me is how good the Unreal Engine looks without pushing it to its limits. Because what you're seeing, we're not pushing that to its utmost. That's alpha footage. We haven't, that's not finalized footage. That's just what our alpha build looks like. I've had some people talk to us in disbelief about that.
I was gonna say, bullshit. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's
that was 100% all in game. All of our character models, that's our environment art. I think that we had placeholder animation because that's the one thing that we're working on right now.
Yeah,
that's still being kind of ironed out before the beta. And we might even still have some small amounts of placeholder animation in beta that we'll let everyone know, but fingers crossed there. But the big thing here is that, the Unreal Engine is incredibly versatile, and we're very, very excited about working with it. And I can't stop recommending it to anyone. It's one of the best engines to work with. I love Unity. I've worked on a few projects that use the Unity engine. It's a good one for indies. But if you have the opportunity to work with the Unreal Engine, I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I agree with it. I've been working for it, for a few years, and it's just there's nothing better or easier to use. It's very universal. Okay, next.
I see someone asking, can killers step in their own traps? So at the moment, balance-wise, no. The killers are actually able to walk over the traps without triggering them.
Okay.
That's a heated debate on our team. We might change that depending on balance. But the real question you should be asking is how many traps can be put down at one time? So we had a little fun game where we hadn't put a cap limit on it, and someone put down like 50. It was terrible. It was pretty funny, but it was just like a whole floor of just traps. We're like, okay, we need to scale this back. Yeah. So what we've done is we have kind of a set limit to how many traps can be put down, like traps, at one time, and then as you put down the last trap, the other one, the oldest one will disappear, basically. Okay. So the newest one will replace the oldest one. What that means is that if you find yourself in a situation where you put down like 4 traps in Predator mode, and then you go flying around and go, oh no, those won't do anything. They're all here. You'll be able to put down traps there. And then the ones back in the backlog are going to disappear. And they, of course, also disappear after use. So after someone gets trapped in them, they'll disappear. And that's currently how we're doing it.
Okay.
I can share that. I can share that with everyone because that we found is the best way, the most kind of game-friendly way to do it, and it keeps the speed of the matches going, and it's a lot of fun. And it's something that I've had weird questions where people are like, "Can you put down traps? You have to put down traps in the real world." And at the moment, trap placement is done in Predator mode. What that means is you can't just drop a trap in front of a survivor. Like, you can't just whip around in Predator mode and just drop it in front of them.
Yeah.
And then they just walk into it in a second. It kind of has the same limitations as coming in and out of Predator mode. You have to be a certain distance. They have to not be able to see you. So when you drop traps, no one sees you dropping the trap as the killer. For the survivors, what that means is one moment they're walking down this great hallway, killer shows up from around the corner, they go running back, they turn the corner, and a corner that didn't have traps suddenly has traps, as an example, or somewhere that they thought was safe has suddenly been is suddenly not safe. So it's really about driving your prey towards ambush zones and kind of mind games and things like that. And we think that's really fun. And everyone that's played the game is having a lot of fun with that.
Awesome. Cool. This question, I don't really think it's that important, but I'll ask anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the suburbs. I think it came up because of... Basically, I think it was because of Dead by Daylight having... You're running around suburbs, but there's no one about. It's kind of about that sort of thing. It was, yeah. Like, are you gonna? I mean, are there going to be people in the houses? Or are you just gonna, create the illusion there's people in the houses, or is it going to be a point of no, this whole street is deserted?
Well, first off, for the suburbs map is something that we're working on, so I can't talk too much about it.
Okay.
But what I can say is that there's story reasons for people not being there, and it's very clear.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
The kids showing up is kind of like, where is everyone? So we have a lore reason for the setting, for the environment like that. Same thing with the mall. Same thing with the high school. As for the way that the suburbs work for us, the suburbs are really fun because of the idea of these like kind of wide open areas with limited opportunities of hiding or outrunning. Versus these like kind of really condensed, short, tight corners and things like that, and that's a really fun kind of design. I can't get too much more into it though at this time because we're going to be saving some of our more bigger map conversations for later down the road.
Yes.
But what I can say is that we're not going to be having like AI in our game or scripted AI or scripted interactions.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind, that this is at its core, it's an asymmetrical game of 5 players versus 1 player.
So, would you avoid single player? Like, even if the game got popular down the road, would you avoid single player, even if you guys went to console?
No, we'd totally be fair. I think anyone, if you get popular enough that you can go off and do single player, we'd absolutely look at that. And
cool.
we're an incredibly creative team, so we talk and everything like that.
Yes.
I think it's important that people understand that. For us, our focus is to make sure that the asymmetrical aspect of the game and the multiplayer aspect is 100% awesome. And we don't want to be distracted by anything else from that. So we have a commitment to our backers and to our fans to make sure that the game that we put in their hands is the most fun possible and it has the biggest bang for their buck. So that's something that we're not going to do,
Okay, cool. I believe that's all the questions I've got written down. Is there anything else you would like to sort of tell us about anything you have?
I got a little bit more time, so I can answer some more questions if people have questions. But
well, I did see one earlier. I thought it was quite funny. Can you play as the Nerd's mouse?
Yes.
Yeah. I like that one.
We not revealed the mechanics yet of the mouse, of the rat.
The rat. Sorry, yeah.
We will show some more stuff of it in the future. Ramses, next rat. I'm sure there's some people who are like, what rat? What's going on? Because there are some people who don't know about it. But there are some interesting aspects to that, so, you'll see it. Can you make it possible to choose what languages you speak when searching for matches? So that's an interesting question. I can't get too much into localization right now. We're a very small indie team, like I said. So guaranteed 100% because we're from Canada and we're in Montreal, so... mon français, terrible pour moi, but le français pour le team, c'est très bon. So I'm very bad at French, but a lot of guys on our team are great.
Yeah.
So we can guarantee that our French and English localization is going to be strong.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
If we can get other localization, we're gonna push for it, and we're pushing for it right now. We're looking for solutions for that right now, so that we can get some good German coverage, some good other language coverage, Spanish and things like that for people as well. And I think that's something that is the key thing to remember, is that it's really about always improving the game and always pushing it forward.
Yeah.
It's been quite the journey too. Like I think that's one of the more interesting things is that we were one of the quieter Kickstarters at the start, and we're just not of that mentality of going out there and waving Wacky Wild inflatable tube man on the side of the street until we're ready to show something properly. We're not gonna go out there and hype up the hype train and everything like that and start throwing in coal like crazy until we're ready.
Yeah, because that's that is the problem with doing that. It can create too much hype, and then even if the game is amazing, it can still disappoint which is becomes a bit of a, so modesty is quite a nice, it can be quite a nice touch in that sort of.
I'm just
I've been looking
someone's
for
asking about PS4 right now. So yeah, like our focus right now is for PC.
Yeah.
Well then Artzia 13. Sorry if I said your name wrong there. We're an incredibly small indie team. Like I got to keep stressing this, is that doing that kind of stuff for console is expensive. Like I think we have like half the budget of Friday 13th if we were to do comparison. So for us, we are 150% on focus on making sure that our PC is good. If you were to expect us for console, you could probably expect something similar to the staggered launch that you're seeing out of Dead by Daylight, which is hitting PC first, making sure that everything's good, and then hitting console afterwards.
Yeah.
Whether or not we can do that in a very condensed time period is a question, and we're looking for solutions on that. We're looking into it right now. We're very, very keen on getting onto console, onto both. But once again, 150%. The guys on Kickstarter backed us for the PC. That's what we went to. We want to make sure that we have that in the strongest position. Just to answer your question, because we've been saying this since the start. We don't want anyone to think that this is a simultaneous launch. At the moment, it's not. If something changed dramatically, we'd let everyone know in a heartbeat. But at the moment, all I can say is, PC is where it's going to be. It's going to be on Steam.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, I have someone, Celista Trilli. You're asking what kind of size of team our RD team is. So our team is about 6 people right now. We have probably, I'd say probably another 10 contractors that we use for specific tasks on and off, like specific kind of things, like can you make us these 5 things, or can you make us these art assets? But we have a core team of 6. That's the size of our team. Montreal is known for their incredibly talented, multi-talented people. So that's something that we keep in mind. And yeah, we've done all of this with 6 people. I think that's something to stress to people. So it's pretty amazing when you think about that.
Have you? I was just gonna say the last video that you did before. I believe it was before the Predator video. Was that the team in that video? I think it's when you see the killer jump through the window. I mean, it's quite an old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some of our core guys. We got Charles over there and Nicholas and Alex, who are our core guys. So Charles is our lead programmer. Alex is our lead game technician. I don't think I was with the studio at that point. I think I was just coming on as a contractor.
Yeah.
So I had just been brought on to give some general advice on the marketing, and then we were having discussions. They seemed to like me. James said he liked me, so I'm happy he allowed me to stick around. And then and things were ramping up, so it made sense. And then on top of it, we got some other guys. But those are some of the people at our team. Yeah, that's where our office is. It was a pretty sweet office.
Fantastic. Do you know how much has? I mean, obviously, I know you said you only just joined on, but obviously, just looking at what's in that video, how much has actually changed from that video to where you guys are now?
From which video? The Predator mode video? Or
yeah, the one before that, where it looks like they're kind of holding like a tracker, and they're walking down a corridor, and then the killer jumps through the window. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, as an example, that tracker is like a placeholder item.
Okay.
So that's not like a final arted up item, as an example.
Okay.
That one also had placeholder animations. So there were some comments people made like, he looks really stiff jumping out the window. I'm like, yeah, because it's using like placeholder Unreal 4 animations that come out of the box. Yeah. So it's not something that was customized or keyframed yet. Some of the other stuff, though, like all of the models, as you saw, all the character models were pretty finalized by then. They're still being touched up a bit right now.
Yeah.
But they're finalized up, and it had all of our environmental art in it. But that's still an example of a hallway that's very bare. That wasn't 100% lit. That wasn't 100% arted up. So that was what we would call pre-alpha footage.
Okay.
And that video specifically was something that was shared with backers, and we shared a little bit to everyone else. But I think if people are wondering what the kind of benchmark for the visuals are going to be, minus animations, the Predator mode trailer gives a pretty good indication of that.
Okay. If anyone wants to,
yes, Faust, we will release a Survivor trailer in the future. We are working on it, but we will not release it until we're 100% happy with it. Just to let you know. Also, Francis, I've had some interesting comments. So this is the Francie Love, where people say things like, "Oh, Dead's shit, and Friday's shit, and last year's shit, and this shit should hate that shit, and that shit should hate this shit."
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And I'm going to make a point here, which is, what an absolutely golden age, wonderful age of horror gaming.
It is.
Um,
Yeah.
there's nothing better for gamers than to have options and choices. And I also make this joke a lot of the time on my Facebook page, where I say, from the greatest actress of any generation, and I go, why can't we have both? She's from the taco shell commercial from El Paso. Why not both? And my point has always been that, when it comes to this stuff, I think that people can, make the choices that they want, play the games that they want, and nothing's stopping them. But
Yeah.
we're living in a renaissance of horror games, like Resident Evil coming out with finally a really great Resident Evil game again. Outlast 2, Outlast 2, and like all those kind of things. And I think that's something that people really should be excited about. Horror is making a big comeback in gaming. Not only is the theme, and asymmetrical is making a big comeback in gaming. So I think it's a really exciting time if you're a fan of this kind of stuff. I'm very excited too.
Yeah.
So as a company, we're very excited to be part of that wave of new games and things like that.
I would say, in general, 2017, yes. I mean, it's not even just games. Look at the amount of horror movies that are out this year. It is literally the year for horror. It has just gone crazy. My last question is about the Unreal Engine 4's official modding capability, like you have for I can't remember what the name of the game is now. But anyway,
For last
evolved,
Skyrim?
not evolved. No. Oh God, I can't think of it now.
Describe the game, Paul.
Epic. It's like their dinosaur game that they've got. If you go onto the Epic launcher, that they have a few games that they.
Are you talking about Ark?
Ark, yes, that's it. That they implement official modding capabilities in. I'll just say it straight out. I did ask. I asked the guys at Friday Faint if they could do this. The answer was no, we can't because of our IP. But obviously, with you guys, you've made your own IP. So, is this something you guys would consider in the future? Maybe implementing, having something like that. Obviously, not straight away, but maybe down the line.
Yeah. So you're talking about like having a game workshop kind of thing going on.
Yeah. The same for like weapons, characters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always an interesting thing. So a lot of the time you'll see that being done by larger companies, and Arc is a large company.
Yeah.
Because they have the kind of legal power behind them and money power that they can put some lawyers to good use when it comes to IP stuff and everything like that. For us, it's an interesting question. It hasn't come up, actually. We haven't actually had a discussion about that, so I guess I'm going to raise that afterwards.
Yeah.
But it is something where, with PC modding, it's kind of a tricky conversation. Because, what happens if people start creating IP-protected characters and start dropping them into last year? Does that affect us? Does that mean we're getting some company coming after us and asking us questions? There's a big difference, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a big difference between someone dropping Mike Myers into Grand Theft Auto versus dropping it into last year. One can fight things off because they have more money than some countries on the planet. The other is a little studio in Montreal, Canada, where we'd cry at just the mail order bill probably.
Yeah, God, yeah.
But that said, never say never. I think modding is a very interesting thing. I think it's very vibrant. There's lots of great examples, like Ark as an example, some stuff that Paradox does with their games, and things like Skyrim, of course, for Bethesda, where modding on PC is really great.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, exactly. I would say we're not against it.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we definitely haven't put any time or effort into making that happen with our game, simply because our studio size, it wouldn't be the most effective way of spending our time.
No, well, yeah, exactly. I was going to ask, are you going to try to look for any ways to kind of protect the content that's already in your game? So you get, obviously, so you don't end up seeing the giant running around Skyrim or Amber, running around in Grand Theft Auto. Like, I was going to ask, obviously, you're going to try and, put any sort of protection in there. But I guess, obviously, like you said, it would probably be
like I think, those kind of things like protecting your IP is always important. There's different reasons, and sometimes it's automatic. So that's something that's, until that problem happened or until that situation occurred, we'd have to think about it and deal with it then.
Yeah.
But that's something that, it's
always a compliment. It does just say how good the models look in the game. Yeah.
I usually joke about that. I think there's a bit of a difference between someone doing something for good intentions versus bad.
Yeah.
Then there's also, of course, the IP differences, or the way that people view IPs differently. Like, say, the West has very different views of intellectual properties versus Russia.
Yeah.
People in Russia kind of go, well, I know I have your model, but I put the effort of putting it into this mod, so it's totally cool. And it's kind of mine because I put the effort of getting that model into this, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I've run into in mod communities in Russia. And then you have, the company looks at them and is like, no, you cannot pull all of these Star Wars models and just drop them into Homeworld. No. And they're like, why not? Here's my PayPal. And it's like, that sometimes happens. But it's, that's a thing for us as a company, be a case by case, and what's the intent behind it.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
And, I think the big thing people need to keep in mind is that I think the core value of modding, which is freedom to the player to create their own experiences and stuff, is a really noble and cool thing.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's definitely some big changes going on with international copyrights and IP copyrights in the entertainment business.
Yes.
So I always caution people about, it's, what's that joke? The Wild West might be getting a bit more cement in the next few years. So I think that's something that people need to keep in mind, that it's better to ask and talk directly with somebody if you're going to do something like that first.
Yeah.
Because I think if someone came to us and said, hey, I'm doing this little thing on the side or whatever for free and want to put your model on this, and send us a letter, we could take a look at it and make a yay or nay. Something completely different if we suddenly one day turn the television on and our characters are running around in Grand Theft Auto, and we'd be like, what?
Yeah.
So that's a very different scenario. At this point, I'm just going to wrap this up because I do have to get going pretty soon. So I think we got another 2 minutes at most, Paul, just to give you a heads up.
Okay. Well, Robinson just said something really funny. There should be a lunch lady killer.
A lunch lady killer?
That does actually sound pretty rough. I can imagine something like, yeah.
Let's get two things straight. First, unless I get my bear kill, there's no lunch lady killer. Right off the a lunch lady killer. What would she kill people with food?
Would she should have a big butcher, just be a big butcher knife, I guess.
Would it be food poisoning? Like
No.
Since it's American school, would it just be like, would the food be either like so high in sugar and salt that they'd fall over, like their arteries were clogged on the spot? Or I have no experience with that. I don't know if that's true. I'm sure there's plenty of great food cafeterias in the States, but that's that, man. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
I know. Well, yeah. Or if you're gonna go down that road,
would her weapon be a spatula? Like, how would she kill someone with a spatula? These are questions that'll keep me up tonight. And of course, whoever suggested this, I'm going to go to the design meeting, right? I'm going to sit there across from Alex and some other guys and go, I think a new killer that we could add last minute would be this lunch lady. And they're going to stare at me and they'll be like, this is why you're stuck in marketing. This is why we don't let you near the engine at all.
Oh, no.
Go back to your corner. Get back on Facebook. Go call those people you need to call. I love it. I just saw it. She stuffs you to death. That's amazing. Robinson, are you in marketing? Because that's the best tagline ever. I can imagine that. DLC, Christmas, the lunch lady. She stuffs you to death. That'd be amazing. I would be in tears as a gamer seeing that. Then no, we can't do Groundskeeper Willie. He's already copyrighted.
Groundskeeper Killer. Yeah.
Well,
you could have, if you're going to go down that road, though, you could have, I suppose, you could have like the principal, and it'll be some bull, like, I don't know, he's like a psycho, and he puts you in detention and like barricades the door.
Bringing things back, we got some really great lore based around our killers and all that. So no worries there. There's some really cool reasons for the guys doing stuff.
Okay.
But anyways, I do have to get going. It's been a great time. Obviously,
we appreciate you having on.
No problem. I'd like to say thanks to everyone in the chat for sticking by and asking so many great questions. And right now, just to let everyone know, I'm going to finish it off with this. So once again, our last chance backing round is coming up. We don't have a set date for it, so stay tuned to our Facebook page for that. And right now, last year is slated for a PC Steam beta in mid-August of this year. We're looking forward to it. We know you guys are too. And we're having a blast, and we hope you guys are enjoying the game. And we look forward to sharing more with you guys in the future. I'm sure Paul will cover it right away, as he always does.
I will.
And we'll go from there.
And hopefully we can expect to have you on in the future as well for some more guest appearances.
I'm sure that I'll be here in one way or another. Maybe I'll just be here in spirit, but, you know, because I'll be tired and locked in a room as I'm hammering out reports and things. But I'm sure I can come back here to do more one-on-one talks with you. No problems.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you too, Paul.
Okay.
I'll talk to everyone. Okay.
Take care. Bye.